Hello and welcome to this edition of Ringside Digest. I'm your host Kirk Day, along with my co-host Nick Miller, and we got a bit of breaking news here today. The Philadelphia Flyers have finally been active in the trade market after doing absolutely nothing in the NHL trade deadline this year. Kind of surprised that they didn't do anything. They had some moves planned, none of them came to fruition. But they finally made a move after the mid-Stanley Cup Finals. It's a bit late for that though, because can't do much with it now if they're not in the league. So. We're going to go over that trade, and we're also going to go over a speculated trade that they may have as well that seems like it will be guaranteed to come at some point either today or tomorrow. But that one is a bit of speculation so far. We don't know too much on it. But we do have one that is for sure happened, which we'll be going over first here, which is the Ivan Provorov is getting traded in a three-way deal going to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, if you have Twitter notifications on for all the insiders, I'm sure you got this from everybody. This was the best one I could find from Kevin Weeks here. He just kind of says the trade breakdown. Sean Walker, Cal Peterson going to Philly. Provorov headed the Blue Jackets 30% retained salary by the Kings. First round to the Flyers and Blue Jackets. LA first round seat from LA for Gavrikov at the deadline. Now, I know that is extremely confusing, is why I also pulled up this screenshot here to simplify it way more. It took me about 10 minutes to read that tweet and actually understand what Kevin was trying to say in that. And that was the same with all the other ones. So here, I'll just break down the trade pretty quickly here. Ivan Provorov, like I said there, was just going to Columbus on 30% retained. That money was retained by the LA Kings. He has 2 years, which is next year and the year after, I believe, that will be retained. The Kings get Kevin Connaughton and Hayden Hodgson, and that's all for that, along with that retained salary. And the Flyers, who I think are the clear winners with a few kind of exceptions that we'll be talking about as well after this, are the winners of this trade. They get Cal Peterson, Sean Walker, Helge Grans, I'm not sure if that's his name, if that's pronounced correctly, like a second-round pick, a first-round pick, and a conditional second-round pick. So getting 2 second-round picks with a first-round pick, and Sean Walker and Cal Peterson, who have proved themselves in the NHL before, for Ivan Provorov, gotta say it's a pretty good deal. So, Nick, tell me what you think about this one, just your immediate thoughts and what else about it.
I think Philly is an absolute winner here because I think with everything that happened with Ivan Provorov and also the situation the team's in and what kind of player he is, you got to get rid of him. With the whole thing, it's for Columbus, it's all right too because he does help solidify your top four. Like you lost Gavrikov this year, obviously, and now you've got a top four of Werenski, Juracek. If Juracek is going to jump up to the NHL, and Bachfist and Provorov. So just as a player here, this is not a bad deal. Provorov's a pretty good player. But Philadelphia getting all that in return for Provorov, and then LA retaining some of the salary. They didn't even have to retain any of it. That's a no-brainer for Philadelphia. It was a good first move for Danny Briere.
Yeah, especially that, like you just said, Danny Briere as well. But I might say this, that the Blue Jackets are not bad. I know they weren't good at all in the standings this year, but what they have with Juracek as well, you got to think Johnny Gaudreau and Patrick Laine as well up top. Like, this is not a bad-looking roster right now. Obviously, they're probably going to make some more moves. They will not have any success next year, still, I wouldn't say. But if they continue on the trajectory they're going in, this team could be pretty scary in a few years. You don't ever know what else they move, who else they draft and stuff like that. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Also, they got a third overall pick at this year's draft, too. That's another really talented player that's going to be coming in. We have no idea what order after Bedard, it gets a little bit, probably Fantilli, but after that, it gets pretty, anything can happen. So you never know what player they're going to get there.
Yeah, that third pick could have a lot of value as well, depending on what they do with it. I don't think they'll trade it, but you never know what happens. If they get the deal they want, if they get something they're looking for, something they're interested in, maybe they make the move, maybe they pull the trigger on it, but we never know. But like you said in that as well, the reason that LA made this trade for, it would kind of seem like paying a lot just to retain some salary, was to get rid of the contracts of Cal Peterson and Sean Walker, mainly because they wanted to sign Gavrikov to an extension, which it looks like it's going to happen. He wants a 2-year contract extension with the Kings, but you know what? You got to assume the Kings want more after getting him. He's a good player, good defenseman. They got him at this year's trade deadline, so I think it's a good idea to lock him up long term because we know he's pretty good. He's a very good defenseman. But if you can get 2 years, will work, but you kind of want him more, so we'll see what happens with that as well. That's the main reason that this trade happened for the Kings, or the Kings were involved in it, I should say, is the easiest way to put it. We'll see what happens to that contract extension, though. But now the second part of this Philadelphia Flyers very busy day which I'm sure most of us didn't expect in the Stanley Cup Finals in the midst of them, was a bit of a Carter Hart trade speculation. Because now that they got Cal Peterson, you would have to assume that Carter Hart's probably gone. Because this also came out today as well from Anthony DeMarco, hearing that the Flyers are working on a deal involving Carter Hart. Now, this one, I gotta say, I really don't like. You know, Carter Hart hasn't had too much success with the Flyers in his career, but he's still a very good goalie. Like, you got to give him a chance still. I know he's had his chances, he's had his ups, he's had his downs, but he's still a fantastic goalie. So there's a lot of teams that would want someone like this, you know, maybe a different team ahead of him, in front of him, maybe a different goalie coach will, you know, resolve the issues that he's had, because we've seen Canadian fans, the World Juniors, he's a fantastic goalie. He is the epitome of what you want at the World Juniors for Canada. No, we've had our goalie struggles in the past, probably since his departure from the World Juniors, but I really like Carter Hart. Might be a bit biased on my part as well, but I don't like this idea of trying to get rid of Carter Hart from the Philadelphia Flyers. And just also this, it hasn't happened yet. As an ongoing Carter Hart speculation, no question the Flyers are engaging in discussions, but at this stage are listening and gauging the level of interest, because I'm sure a lot of teams will have a very, very high level of interest in this goalie, Carter Hart. He's stellar. He's a stellar goalie when he's on, but he's pretty bad when he's off. But there's a few teams that I think will be very interested in him now that the word is out that people might start, you know, getting their inquiries in on whether the price of him, whether he'll fit with the team, what they want in return. But I got a few ideas of where he may go and the teams that may want him. But Nick, who do you think that we could see Carter Hart in the future with? You know, a few teams make a trade. Where do you think he'll land?
Well, the first few teams that come to mind are a couple of Atlantic Division teams in either Buffalo or the Ottawa Senators. I know Buffalo might sound a little bit, but because they got Devin Levi, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen coming up, but those guys, we're not exactly sure if those guys are ready to make the jump that Buffalo is going to make next season. Buffalo is going to make a jump next season. We all assume that because they made a big one, a pretty significant one this season. So to see Devin Levi maybe come back the other way or something like that, because he's not as far along as Carter Hart is in his development. Carter Hart's never had a solid defense. And in Buffalo, he'd be walking into a situation that's much better than the one in Philadelphia. Gives him a fresh scene. Devin Levi has played like a couple of NHL games. I don't know if it'd exactly be him, but you kind of have to assume if they got Carter Hart, it would be him going the other way. For Ottawa, we've got a similar situation with that. Like Ottawa doesn't really have the goaltending prospect to send back the other way, but you've got to assume Ottawa's going for a goalie here because Cam Talbot's just not going to cut it. Like, it seems like everywhere Cam Talbot goes, the team believes in him a little bit too much, and it just doesn't work out. Yeah,
no,
like you know that.
I know that for sure.
Yeah, so like I think you believe in him a little bit too much, and then you say, oh yeah, he can stop a few pucks, and he ends up not stopping a few pucks. So, you know, like it's, I think Ottawa would be going for him there as well.
Yeah, well, Ottawa got rid of their only goalie prospect in a one-for-one trade for Cam Talbot, Philip Gustafsson, who we know how good he played this year, and waiting on the contract extension for him as well. But I do like the idea you had with Buffalo. You know, Buffalo could ship their goalies. They have a lot of goalie prospects. So, you know, there might be a team that's not there yet, but they're almost there. They got time to develop this guy. They want him, put him in the system, get him used to the defense, get him used to the system they have. So that's a very good possibility. But also in that type of situation with a team that's not really there yet, looking for a starting goalie, I got to say the Montreal Canadiens. I might be a long shot, and you got to trust Samuel Montembeault, because with the team he played playing with last year and how terrible they frankly were, he was pretty good in the games that he played in front of that team. So you got to assume that he will get another chance with Montreal. But maybe you get a guy like Carter Hart, who's well known to Canadiens fans, mainly because of Team Canada. But you gotta give him a chance. I think you might have to give him a bit of consideration. Just inquire, see what the price is. So I'm gonna go with the Canadiens. You know, it might be a bit of a long shot, but you also got teams like Calgary who might get rid of Markstrom, and then you got Vancouver might get rid of Demko. There's a lot of goalie stuff happening this summer that we might see, but Carter Hart, that's a very, very big one. I did not expect it. I don't like it for Philadelphia. I'll just say that. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, because when that Carter Hart trade happens, we'll be going over it eventually. I'm not sure if it'll happen today and it'll happen tomorrow. Might not happen for a few days, but we'll be going over it whenever it happens. So make sure to subscribe if you want to see that and what we have to say about that. Make sure to like the video as well if you enjoyed. And that's all we got for this video, so thank you for watching.